I am a full-time creator. I have a smaller community. I have about 50,000 subscribers here on YouTube, but I'm full-time. So when I released the idea of needing hundreds of thousands of millions of subscribers and being famous, and I really just focused on who I was as a creator and what I wanted to achieve with this channel and how I wanted to reach my community and even just make a community, right? That's when I was able to really strengthen what I was doing and make this a career.
Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Video Craft Show presented by Video Husky. I am Jon Santiago, and every other week, I interview content creators about their stories, strategies, experiences, and adventures in building an online audience through video. Now, do you think you can't make a living as a content creator with a small audience? Well, think again. Our guest on this week's episode of the Video Craft Show presented by Video Husky is living proof that you can build a career as a content creator with an audience of fewer than 100,000 YouTube subscribers. Kelly Driscoll is a creator who has built a small but loyal following around beauty content. She specifically focuses on the verticals of skincare and K-beauty, discussing them in the context of self-care and mental health. After starting and giving up on YouTube close to a decade ago, Kelly came back to the platform in 2018 and has posted 2 videos a week consistently ever since. With over 50,000 subscribers on YouTube and close to 25,000 followers on Instagram, she's built a sustainable career for herself as a content creator. Now, in this episode, I speak with Kelly about her almost decade-long journey to build her YouTube career. We also discuss the difference between being process-oriented versus results-oriented as a creator, milestones that signal to her that she was headed in the right direction on YouTube, and where she earns the majority of her revenue as a creator. And hint, it is not from brand deals. We talk about those things and so much more. But before I jump into that, I got to give a quick shout out to Idea Economy, the newsletter curated weekly by a friend of the show, John Bardos. Learn how to grow an audience and build a business as a creator. I subscribe to the newsletter personally because John helps me find topics and ideas that I end up discussing with guests on this podcast. So be sure to check out the link in the description of the YouTube video as well as the show notes for this particular episode to subscribe to the Idea Economy newsletter as soon as possible. It's definitely a must-read newsletter if you are a content creator. So without further ado, let's go ahead and toss it to my conversation with Kelly Driscoll. Kelly, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Video Craft Show presented by Video Husky. It is a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, like I remember when we met. We met through like a sales call. You were a prospect who was interested in purchasing our service here at Video Husky, and then at a certain point in the call, it just kind of turned into a podcast in my mind, where I felt like, oh, we're just talking now, like how I would normally talk in a podcast. So I figured, yeah, you know what? Why don't I pitch her the idea of coming on the show, and here you are today. So again, I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no, it was so funny because it was at one point, I think we were like, we should just be recording this because like right there was like a little mini podcast just talking about YouTube and everything about like being a creator and everything that it takes. And yeah, it was like, oh, we should have recorded that. And I'm a podcaster too, so I like picked up on it. I was like, that was a good soundbite right there.
We could like we should be repurposing that content for something. Yeah. Maybe I could just send you like the Zoom clip or something, and you could just share it on Instagram or whatever. But there are some stuff like, because I revisited that conversation that we had, and there are some things that I wanted to ask you follow-ups on, which I will bring up at a later, at a certain point in this conversation that we're having. But I do want to, where I usually start these talks and conversations with creators like yourself is just on the personal story, on the journey. And from the research that I have gotten to do about you, it seems like you started posting and creating on YouTube for a while, like a long time ago. It's almost like a decade ago. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I started my YouTube channel in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually right after I graduated college. I actually have a theater degree that I didn't actually end up doing anything with because I think similar to a lot of people who enter college with like a really focused idea of what it is that they want to study and what they want to do with the rest of their lives after the 4 or 5 years that it takes to go through your education, you walk away with that diploma and you're like, that's not, this isn't it. I don't think this is what I want to do. And you do kind of go through that soul searching moment. And I started that in the last semester of my senior year in college, where I was like, I'm getting this degree. I'm almost there. I've got this piece of paper, but I don't want to do anything with it. And I don't know what do I do after I graduate? If this isn't it, then what is it? And for some reason at that point in time, I was just watching so much YouTube at the time. And I just, I had my favorite creators who I felt like I knew them and they were there and they were teaching me so much, but they were also, before we had the word parasocial relationships, they were, just there for me in a time where I was feeling really lost and confused. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I want to do this. I think I want to be on YouTube. It was just this really weird, strange thing where I was like, I just know this is what I want to do. And so when I graduated, I actually got because I shared this like big grand plan about YouTube with everybody, and I got a camcorder for a graduation gift, a secondhand camcorder. And that's where it started. And I just started posting a video a week. I was working retail at the mall. I eventually landed in optics. I became an optician. I was offered a job from my eye doctor, and I was like, sure,
Oh, wow.
whatever. I need money, right? So I started kind of down like a career path while I was uploading a video every single week. And after a year, so this was 2014, I had maybe gotten like 200, maybe 150 like subscribers. It was like really slow growth. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was making like makeup videos and like beauty videos at the time, and it was a lot of work. I was, trying to figure out how to make money, how to be an adult after college, trying to get my life started, but also trying to get this YouTube thing started, doing a video every single week, uploading, being really consistent. It's really hard. It's taxing. And I wasn't seeing the growth from it. So after it was like almost exactly a year, I was like, I give up. I'm just like, I just can't, and it was kind of heartbreaking too, because it was sort of like that next dream where I was like, this is it for me. But again, it was like, I had that theater degree. I didn't do anything with it. That was like a broken dream. And then it was like YouTube. And then it was like, that was a broken dream. And so it was tough at the time to walk away, but like, that's what ended up happening. And so like a lot of people, I think in their 20s as they progress on and they're like, I got to make money. I got to pay bills. I need a career. I need health insurance. Like I have to kind of like check things off, the list of like milestones that like I'm doing okay. Like I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing that, but I was really unhappy. I was good at what I did, but I didn't really enjoy it. And I didn't get a lot of fulfillment from it. I was a licensed optician for 5 years, helping people with glasses and contact lenses, and kind of like medical and like paperworky. There was a little bit of sales, a little bit of fashion, but it just wasn't really lighting me up. And I actually, the very first job that I had, I actually lost that job unexpectedly, and that really kind of threw me for a loop at the time. Because I felt like a failure. I felt like I should have tried harder to make it work. And I wanted to like progress into a different career, but I just couldn't figure out how to. And it was hard. It's hard to get people to like pay attention to your resume, when you don't have contacts. And I thought about returning to YouTube. I was like kind of playing around with Instagram at that time. And I just kind of like got that feeling in me. I was like, no, I have to make a safe choice. Like now's not the time for Instagram and YouTube and being an influencer and like talking about beauty products. Now's the time to like hustle and like, get like a respectable career. And so I actually ended up in the same line of work, just at a different office. And it's so like when I look back at it now, it's like, wow, the universe was really redirecting me because I lost that job too, almost under the exact same circumstances. And I was like,
Wow.
Was like, you're like, what's going on? Like, how can this be? How can this be happening to me again? And I think something clicked in me where I was like, this isn't happening to you. This is happening for you. You are being redirected. You need to make a different choice. You made the safe choice and you kind of got burned for it. So what's a different choice that you can make now? Because if you keep making the same choice, the same thing's going to happen. And
Hmm.
that's when I was like, I'm going to go back to YouTube. I have, I think I like looked at it and it was like, I have like 6 to 8 months of living expenses saved up. I don't have to jump into a job right away. I'm going to make a risky choice and I'm going to look for jobs. But as I'm looking for jobs, I'm going to get this YouTube channel back up off the ground. So
Hmm.
this was 2018. Um, so yeah, I started for a year. I gave up. I came back in 2018. And the funny thing is, back in 2014, like the second to last video that I posted before I gave up and just ghosted on YouTube
Hmm.
was a video called like how I cleared my clogged pores or something. It was a little bit
Hmm.
of a different video for me. It was like more skincare related. I hadn't done that before, and when it came back to my channel in 2018, I was like, okay, like what's going on here? I've never looked at the analytics, never, looked at it again because it's too painful. And I went back and I was like, how does this video have 80,000 views? So I abandoned my YouTube. I gave up really quickly. But while I was gone, this video was like taking off and it was evergreen content and it was still racking up views. And I wasn't really getting subscribers off of it, but it was like that sign that was like, you can do this. You can reach people with this. You can get the numbers, but you just can't. You can't put a weird timeline on it. Like in 1 year, I'm going to be YouTube famous. Like,
Yeah,
no, it's not going to happen
exactly.
that way. But you have to be patient and you have to be consistent. And you have to see where the trends are taking you. So if I had stayed on YouTube and saw that video taking off, which it didn't take off right away, it took a while for it to pick up. But I could have pivoted on that because the funny thing is, at that time, I was doing makeup and beauty videos. But when I returned to YouTube, I was doing skincare. And that's
Hmm.
what really took off for me. And that's really like where my passion lied. And that's where that video was kind of like hinting and pushing me towards was like that skincare niche. So it's been kind of a wild ride even to just get back to YouTube. It's a long
Yeah.
story, but I think it's important for anybody who is thinking about it or who maybe is struggling as like a beginning creator and wants to give up because it is like it's hard and sometimes you do want to give up because you feel like you're just not seeing the progress.
Hmm.
But it's just sometimes it takes longer than you think it's going to take.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what you're saying too. This is something that I raise with a lot of creators who come on this podcast is the difference between being results oriented or process oriented. Like I think it's good to have results oriented goals. Like if you want to hit certain benchmarks, like yes, I would like to chase getting my first 100,000 subscribers or getting my first video that does like 50,000 views or something like that. Because obviously, once you have that data, then you can actually look at those videos and the analytics and
Yeah.
see what's working, what isn't working. Because when you have videos that don't have that many views, you can't get enough data to help you optimize your content. But then
Yeah.
I think there's like when you're early on in your career as a creator, there's something to being process oriented and having things that are within your control. Like you can control whether or not you show up each week to create a video. The other stuff in terms of how many people watch your video or subscribe to your YouTube channel are very out of your control.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you make a really good point about being more in the process rather than being super attached to like the results because when you're first starting out, you're figuring everything out. Like you may be one of those people who has a real grand plan, and that's actually a good thing is to go in with like a little bit of intention and a
Yeah.
little bit of direction about what you're doing. And really these days YouTube is so sophisticated, you do have to really start off with a plan. But at the same time, you don't know how it's going to be for you. You don't know what type of creator you are until you start creating and until you started coming up against some of the challenges that you just don't anticipate when you look at it from the outside, like, oh, I want to do that, but you don't anticipate a lot of the stuff that you come up against. And I think, I'm going to my fourth year as my second incarnation on YouTube,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to my fourth year, and I still, you know, feel like I'm constantly discovering who I am as a creator. I'm constantly discovering where I need to level up. I'm constantly meeting those challenges and trying to figure out how can I be better, and identifying, maybe weak spots, things where I need to improve, or things that just aren't my zone of genius that, maybe I can get help with, or just knowing who I am as a creator, knowing where my strengths are, where my weaknesses are, and really setting myself up for success that way. I think, like I mentioned in my kind of origin story, when I went in the first time, I got so discouraged because I kind of had this arbitrary timeline on my success. And I was very results focused because I wanted to be YouTube famous. I wanted, I don't know what I wanted. I don't know what I thought. Like I was going to be the next
Mm,
Michelle Phan or something.
mm,
And that just was not happening. You're not going to make your YouTube, channel pop off with 100 followers. In my mind, that's what I thought. These days, I am a full time creator. I have a smaller community. I have about 50,000 subscribers here on YouTube, but I'm full time.
mhm.
So when I released the idea of meeting hundreds of thousands of millions of subscribers and being famous, and I really just focused on who I was as a creator and what I wanted to achieve with this channel and how I wanted to reach my community and even just make a community, right? That's when I was able to really strengthen what I was doing and make this a career, and really be able to do it without, um, yeah, needing to achieve like huge numbers, right?
Mhm.
So it's really important to go on the journey as a creator rather than get super attached to outward numbers or signs that you feel like are your success, because those things don't make you happy.
Yeah.
What makes you happy is like when you feel like you've leveled up as a person or as a creator, or you've overcome a challenge, or you've just gotten better.
Mhm.
That's what was rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah, the act of creating itself, the act of making the videos themselves, I think that should be like the motivation. Like the first motivation, because like you said, if you're going into it with like this extrinsic motivation of I'm going to be the next Michelle Phan, or the next big beauty influencer on YouTube and become super famous, when that doesn't happen, you realize that, oh, I wasn't actually doing it for reasons that benefit me. I was doing it for like validation from other people. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, that's great. Like for you, when did that switch happen where you realize I have to just like enjoy creating content for myself first, and then maybe, and if it doesn't happen, but maybe some of those other like extrinsic outcomes may come.
I think it's kind of twofold because, like I said, a big part of me getting back into YouTube was really kind of, uh, not hitting rock bottom, but really getting to a point where like I lost the same job twice. Like
Mm,
how embarrassing. But that's how I felt at the time. Not even embarrassing, but like I felt shame about that. Like I had somehow failed. There was something wrong with me. I wasn't good enough. What did I do? There was a lot of that kind of talk in my head. And I think because I had gone through that kind of moment where I was like, I have to change something. Either I have to change my career or I have to change how I'm approaching this. I think just kind of getting to that point where you're kind of like you're forced to yeah, kind of like a little bit of rock bottom, a little bit of like that little bit of shame where it's like, okay, well, I can only go up from here, right?
mhm.
So I think in that gave me the courage to, like I said, make the unsafe choice of like going all in on YouTube and really just trying to build something there. It really made me release the expectations of, like I
Yeah.
was saying earlier, checking things off like health insurance, car, job, salary, blah blah blah. And I released all of that because in a way I sort of had lost that. And I decided to choose something different. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I knew something had to change. So that was like the first thing, was that I had really released a lot of the validation seeking and wanting to impress other people with what I was doing, looking good on paper, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. But then I think it also started to really click with me when I was not a YouTube partner. I was not making AdSense at the time, but like I got Amazon affiliate money. I got like a $10 check. And I was like, wait a second, I just made money off my channel,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't do it in the traditional way of getting, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, getting into the YouTube partner program, getting my AdSense check, getting a sponsorship or a brand deal or a partnership. I simply got it off of making videos and putting affiliate links in my description box, and
Mm-hmm.
this is paying me money. And it wasn't that much at the time. Yeah, it was like, I think it was like $10, maybe $20. $20 probably would have been a good month
Yeah.
for affiliate when you're first getting started. It was probably about $10, but I was like, this is $10. Like I can take this $10 and I can go, you know, buy a nail polish or something at Target. This is tangible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that gave me the encouragement to keep going, because it's like, it was that like, aha, there's something here. If I
Mm-hmm.
double down on this, what did I do to make this $10? If I can double down on this, maybe I can make $20. Maybe I can make $40. And it was just those little like moments of like, yeah, validation, but also just kind of like you're the signs that you're on the right track, that
Yeah.
you're able to do this, and not in that traditional, almost like in that way that you feel like is not possible. Like I was saying, it's like getting 100,000 subscribers. Well, do you know how much work and time and hours goes into that? And you may not even get there. You don't need to hit a certain number in order to make money off of this, or in order to make a difference in somebody's lives, or in order to create a community around something that you're passionate about. It's really just about like getting in there, staying consistent, and then starting to follow those signs and doubling down on the good stuff. And that's when I started to get really passionate about being a creator too, because like I said, I had kind of hit a really hard, rough patch in my life, and I felt like I was taking a risky choice and being redirected. And then once I was open to that and I really put myself in, like all in, those little signs started to show up. And those were my encouragement to keep going. And that's when I was like, sometimes things are hard. Sometimes, you're like, I'm going to have to go up and get a 9 to 5. Like, this is not going to work. But
Yeah.
then there was other times where it was like, no, if you stick with this, if you stay patient, you keep working hard, you're going to be able to make something with this. You just have to be ready to like go with the flow, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. And that's how I got here. And yeah, like I said, it was scary, but it was also really exciting at the time, but just kind of staying open to the possibilities.
Yeah. It sounds like you had a very good sense of your own intuition about these
Yeah.
things, right? Like you were able to kind of intuitively notice that, hey, I made $10. If I made $10, then maybe I could make $20, or I could make $40, or I could keep doubling up on that. You were
Yeah.
able to listen to those signs, or be aware of those signs. How would you say you fine tune that intuition? Because sometimes I don't know if many creators, they may not necessarily have that for themselves, and there may be like that sign that is indicating that you should keep going, but they decide to quit too soon.
Yeah. I think this is why, I've had the calling to be on YouTube for so many years. But this is why now was the right time for me, because when I started right after college, I was unwilling to really do the personal work, to really
Mm,
go on that journey and really kind of look at the deeper side of it, because I truly believe that being a creator is, yes, it's a creative journey, and it's entrepreneurial, and it's making videos, and it's being smart with content and trends and keywords and all of that, but it's also a personal journey of leveling up as a person, because I truly do believe that your journey as a creator is deeply connected to your journey as a human being. And that's actually why I do have a podcast called The Journey, because I started to realize this is so much more than just like I said, it's so much more than just like knowing trends and like getting on top of like the what's happening in your niche and things like that. It was
Mm-hmm.
about me being able to like release expectations for validation and things like that. So when I started up with YouTube at the second time, as I mentioned, I was in a really rough patch in my life where I was really questioning every single thing that I had done up until that point, and really questioning what did I want my life to look like. Because the way that it had been for the last 4 or 5 years, I was not happy. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I started my YouTube channel, it was definitely like a healing process for me creatively. But it was also part of me getting to know myself better and starting to explore personal development as a way to empower myself to make the choices to live the life that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And to really try to give myself the ability to have a life with freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of set everything off, I think for me, was reading a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
All right.
It's a
Yeah.
pretty
Very
famous,
aware.
personal
Very aware of
development
that
book.
book. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Morning
and it really,
pages.
yes, that's where I was going next. It really encouraged me to start journaling. And it really helped when I started doing morning pages, which is basically just journaling without like a subject in mind. So you put pen to paper, you commit yourself to writing at least 3 pages every single morning, and it's just stream of consciousness. So you're not like, dear diary, today I blah, blah, blah. You just start writing. And if that means that you write, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write for like a whole page, that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually you will start to be like, I don't know what to write. I guess I'm kind of like blocked because blah blah blah, and then just it starts to flow. And so I really embraced morning pages for a really long time. That when I started my channel was about when I started to do this like creative healing work with The Artist's Way. And I think that's what really allowed me to get clear about why was I starting this YouTube channel back up again? Why did I feel so compelled to try this out? And what were the things about the past couple of years that made me so unhappy, and how can I avoid falling into that again? So I think I needed to heal myself as a creative person, which, by the way, everybody is a creative person. So
Yeah.
even if you're like, I'm not that creative, yes, you are. Yes, you are, but you just have to get in touch with it. And so I find personal development work to really open up my mind to myself, my inner self, what I want, what I don't want. And it really just helps me get very clear about where I'm moving in life, and who I want to be as a person, and what kind of impact do I want to have. And I think that going through the personal development work, like I said, it healed me creatively, but it helped me realize that like I didn't want to be on YouTube to like be YouTube famous. I wanted to be on YouTube to help people. And that
Mm-hmm.
really just helped me narrow down on a purpose. Once I was able to do that, I think that everything really started to come together. So that's why I'm so passionate about like, if you are a creator, you need to go on your personal journey too at the same time. Because if you don't, there is so much, and I know you talk about this a lot on the show with other creators. There are so many pitfalls that you can get into as a creator, so many mental health traps, so many challenges that you can come up against that are really difficult and really actually, I think, are harmful for some creators who aren't really nurturing themselves
Mm-hmm.
on their personal side and really working on themselves in a personal way. You know, like mean comments or burnout or feeling like your boundaries are always being pushed as a creator. If you're not constantly working on your personal journey and who you are as a person and what you stand for, it's really hard to overcome those things.
Mm-hmm. How do you go about setting boundaries for yourself as a creator? You know, before we jumped onto this
Yeah.
conversation and started recording, we were talking about how you're going on vacation soon. You're going to go to Greece for
Yeah.
3 weeks, which is awesome. But, you know, at the same time, it's like, you know, that you're going to have to do a little bit of work while you're still on the road. So, how do you these days go about balancing that go about attacking that balancing act between, wanting to work and then also having some time to do some personal stuff on the side?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm still figuring it out.
Mm,
That is something that for me, boundaries, I think I didn't really have any for a long time, especially when it came to work. I'm that type of person who gets really fulfilled by work. I love working. I will work all the time, and it's something that really, really makes me happy, and I get a lot of fulfillment from. That being said, I think like a lot of people over the last 2 years with the pandemic, I started to realize that like I had a lot of issues around work and around boundaries and not really setting my work up in a way that was healthy for me as a person. And the nice thing about being a creator is you're in charge of how you do things. So if you feel like something's not working, you are empowered to be able to change it. But that sometimes it's hard to do that, and I will
mhm,
fully admit that like I am still in the process of figuring out the boundaries that feel right for me. But one thing that I really needed to implement was working hours. So important as a creator, especially as a full-time creator, it's very easy to work around the clock because there are no boundaries around your time. You're not, punching a clock at 9 a.m. and then, you need to be out at a certain time, 6 or 7 o'clock at night, right? So I oftentimes would find myself working until 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, working with no days off. And well, sometimes that's what you need to do. Sometimes that's what you need to do. But I think that it really makes sense to structure your time. And even if
mm,
you're a part-time creator, you need to structure your time because if you're a part-time creator, it's even harder for you to carve out that free time or that day off or that afternoon off or whatever it is. So even if you're like working on the weekends and doing this as a side hustle to your 9 to 5, you also still need to create your working hours where you just set aside that time on your schedule where this is what you're doing. And if you get it done, awesome. If you don't, you're not going over this time. This is so hard for me.
mhm.
But that's what I do. So I have a time of day every day. It's done. It's shut off. I turn my computer off. I close the door to my office. You know what I mean? Like it's done. And if what I wanted to do that day is not done, oh wow, I can pick it up tomorrow. It will still be there. That's
Yeah.
really hard for me, but it's so important because once you don't have the boundaries on your time, you will work and work and work and work. You finish that one thing, then you pick up something else, and then you pick up something else. So that's probably the first thing to do, and that's something I have been doing. I'm not always the best at it, but I'm getting a lot better with it. Taking a day off is super important, and for me, I think I'm starting to understand with boundaries that like everybody's boundaries are different, and you need to know who you are as a person and what you can and can't handle. And so one thing that I've been getting better at is like not having to like respond to every single email as soon as I get it. And like that always like throws me off because I am an introvert. I am somebody that like I can only handle a certain amount of communication every single day. And so I don't get hard on myself because I can't do every single email and every single comment and every single message. I just do what I can do. And then I'm like, I know that like I've done what I could, and that I have to be okay with that because that's what I need. So permission is a word that I talk about a lot on my podcast and on my YouTube channel, and it's so tied to boundaries because I think when you're trying to set up your boundaries, society it tells us that we're doing it wrong or that we need to be available all the time or we need to work around the clock. And
Mhm.
we have to kind of deprogram ourselves from that and kind of learn to give ourselves compassion and permission to say, hey, it's okay, I'm gonna stop working. I didn't do all my emails today, but like I'm giving myself permission to turn it off because that's what I need right now. And when you are a creator, even if you do have a team of people behind you, when you're a creator, so much of it depends on you. So much of it depends on you showing up, you being available energetically, spiritually, and if you're constantly being dragged down by things, eventually that's going to catch up with you. So giving yourself permission, it's not about like, well, I don't want to do it, so I give myself permission. It's like, no, I can't. Like I'm full right now. I
Hmm.
can't take any more. And I give myself permission to step back, because when I take a step back, when I take care of myself, when I give myself rest, permission to do so, I am the best that I can be. I am my most creative. I am my most energetic. And that's the best gift that I can give myself, my community, my team, whatever it is, right? So learning permission, I think, is hard, but it's super necessary for anybody, who's looking for a little bit more balance with their boundaries in life.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you need to take one step back in order to take two steps forward,
Mm,
like if you take a little bit of a break, but then that gives you, a whole lot of ammunition for the next week that comes that could be totally crazy, right? Like
yeah.
I'm firmly of the belief that, you should take breaks, and we all should take breaks when we can, and it helps rather than hinders us. And you should listen to that. Like if you feel like procrastination is often seen as like this negative thing, but it could be actually a signal that like your brain might just be a bit overloaded and you need to decompress for a moment there. So
Yeah. And
definitely.
I will say, from the creative standpoint, I do not get any ideas by sitting at a desk
Yeah.
and staring at a computer. I never get any ideas. I always get ideas when I'm doing the dishes, when I'm taking a shower, when I'm walking my dog, when I'm reading a book. I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be a great topic for a video. And then I have to like write things down. So I have like journals and pads of paper like on my bedside or like in different rooms and stuff, because I will forget. Um, and I'm constantly like writing post-it notes, but it's never at my desk,
Yeah.
never in my office. It's always when I'm doing something else. This is actually something that I've been kind of exploring lately, and something I want to talk about on my podcast too, which is just the idea of like, you are not a machine. We are not plugged in 24, 7. We, in order to be creative beings, we actually do need to learn the art of doing nothing.
Hmm.
If you're in a constant state of doing, you're never really going to hit your creative stride. And I think a lot of people are feeling very burned out and not having the energy for the things that they love, or kind of getting creative ideas and stuff, because we're always plugged into something. And even when we're resting, we're plugging into something or scrolling or whatever, or consuming content even. And our brains are kind of always on, and there really is an art to turning it off. And when you're able to do that, you give yourself so much more space. And it's something I'm learning as a creator, that like I almost have to do this in order to be creative, is I have to take a big step back. Because yeah, if you're constantly working, you will feel like your creative bucket is just completely depleted. So there really is an art, like you said, to procrastination, to doing nothing, to being unbusy.
Yeah.
It's definitely an art form.
Yeah, you definitely have to train yourself to do that. Like I'm a big proponent of meditation. I've meditated every day for like the last several years, and it's a practice. It's
Yeah.
training, like training your mind and your training your capacity to just sit and do nothing. Cuz sometimes
Mhm.
I wonder too, with people who are often always so busy, it's like, are you so busy because you're avoiding something that you don't actually that you need to confront, but you're just constantly,
Right.
moving at 100 miles per hour because you're afraid of actually sitting with this thing that could potentially, have some negative effects on you, if you confront it. That's something that I wonder about every now and then.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think being alone and unbusy with yourself is difficult. But I think that ties back in too about, going on a personal journey and the creative journey at the same time.
Hmm.
I think it's so important to embrace both of those things, because yeah, you can be a creator and just be busy, 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 but eventually you are going to question what are you doing, and it may become a point where it's like that existential crisis is like, what have I been working towards this whole time? I don't even know what it is that I want to achieve with this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what makes me happy as a person. And I talk to creators on my podcasts a lot, and sometimes I do feel like there is um, that that feeling where it's like, wait, what have I been doing for the last couple of years? Like, what have I been doing? And do I even want to keep doing this? And like, what is this all for? And I think that it is really important to take a step back and be able to ask yourself hard questions about that. But the only way you can do it is like
If you
completely unplugging,
pause, yeah,
completely pausing. Yeah. And I think more of us are embracing that because the world, the society, the culture is changing, and we're realizing the toxicity of the hustle culture and the busyness, and how damaging that can be. So I think the world, and like I said, the culture is starting to understand that like we all need to take that collective pause, but it's a hard lesson. It's
yeah,
a hard
it's
one. And like I said, I'm going through it too. I'm like, wait a second, I have to
yeah.
reshape the way that I do things in order to be happy, in order to be creative, and I have the power to do that. But the only way you're going to be able to make positive change is if you take a step back and actually say, what needs to change? Does something need
Mhm.
to change? If you're not asking yourself those questions, you're not going to be able to make positive,
Yeah.
choices and changes in your life. So
Yeah, Kelly, the one thing I want to dial back on that you mentioned a moment ago about just coming up with ideas on the fly, it seems like when you're not really sitting at a desk, you're doing other things, and you capture those ideas into notebooks, into journals and things like that. I was really what piqued my curiosity is how then do you go about reviewing all of those items that you capture? Because sometimes, you could write down a bunch of stuff, but then if you never review it and then process it, then those ideas sit there like untouched and never
yeah,
get turned into reality.
yeah. So I like to think of myself as a organized person, but it's kind of organized chaos.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because I am very much the person who needs to write things down. I am not
Yeah.
like the notes app person. I don't keep notes in my phone. There's something about muscle memory and writing something physically on a piece of paper that is incredibly powerful for me. It really helps me download things and it helps me remember things a lot better. So that's first and foremost. It has to be handwritten. I can't text it. Like if I'm in a bind, I'll email it to myself or something, right? But like I have to write it down. So I do have a planner that I use, like a written planner, where I can map out the month of content, and I also can look at things from a day to day, like to do kind of list. So that's what helps keep me organized from that perspective. But when it comes to all the different ideas, I do try to keep them collected within that kind of that planner. So whether it's taking, oh, there was that good idea in that journal, grabbing that journal and just quickly jotting some notes to myself on a post-it and then putting that onto like that month's calendar as like a potential idea, is something that I've been doing for a long time. I have started to use Trello
Hmm.
recently to start to get myself a lot more organized, which it's actually such a powerful free tool. I'm all about free. And Trello is free. It's really easy to use. So I start to make individual cards for any ideas that I have. And within those ideas, I might write some more notes to myself, or I might like post some links to maybe some like research or something. Um, Sometimes it's just like a title of a video, but I don't know how it's going to be fleshed out. Or sometimes it's based off of um, because I'm in the skincare niche, so sometimes it'll be like, oh, I just got like a pimple or something. So like maybe I can do something about like not popping your pimples. And so I'll just not popping your pimples. But I don't know what the flesh of the video or like the meat of the video is going to be, but I'll write myself a title, or I'll base it off of a product that I'm using, or um, it'll all kind of just be like different seeds, and then I'll flesh out those cards from the seeds. So getting it on Trello has actually been a lot better because I'm not like going back and being like, what does that say? Because my handwriting's pretty bad. But it's getting worse. But just kind of like collecting all of the ideas, whether it is something handwritten on a bunch of post-it notes, like I said, organized chaos, but it has worked for me so far. Keeping it in one specific place, getting that organized is really important. Or, transcribing it into something like Trello, which is great because then you can start using those cards and putting them into a visual calendar, like a content calendar, which I've been like, whoa, as soon as I started doing that, I was like, this is amazing. I love this. However you want to do it, I think is it the however you work is how you work. But I think getting those ideas into one organized place is super important. And then having like your certain times where you're visiting those ideas. So once a week when I am kind of like coming up with what are the videos that I want to post for the week or upcoming, what do I want to film, that's when I'll sit with those. So it usually happens about once a week where I'll sit with those ideas and be like, okay, well, this is a really good idea. I think I'm ready to film this. I think I have everything I need for this. I can flesh this idea out right now. Sometimes it'll be like, this is so awesome, but like, you know what? I think I need time for this one. This one needs more research. This one needs more products. This one, I want to do more with this, so I'm going to put this off until a later date. So having everything in one place, but then visiting it on a regular basis, and you'll find like something that seemed like a good idea is actually not a good idea because you don't have what you need in order to create it. And sometimes that can be put on the back burner, or sometimes it's just not going to happen. And other times, you're completely like, I don't know what to film this week. And then you can just go to your bucket of ideas, and there's always going to be something in there that's like really easy that like you could just like pull it out of a hat. So, like you could film that without a script or anything. Like it's so easy for you. Then you can just pull that idea out. Like, great, I'm covered. So I find that the creation process, it doesn't happen like on a timeline, but if you're constantly keeping a record of your ideas, even if they're not fleshed out, keeping them all in one central place and then just visiting them on a consistent basis, it really helps you organize your content. And I release a lot of content. So I like to kind of mix up what I'm releasing from week to week. I don't like to release like 3 videos in a row that are like individual product reviews. So that helps me mix and match my content too to keep things fresh for my audience.
Yeah. So, and I know you post 2 videos a week on your YouTube channel. Now, I'm really curious about how you came to that conclusion and why you decided to go with 2 videos a week, and just how your content creation process has evolved over the past 4 years of you doing this essentially full time.
Yeah, I started doing 2 videos pretty much as soon as I restarted my channel in 2018. I did 2 videos, and I think it was for a couple of reasons. I think at the time, the advice, all of the advice around like how to make it on YouTube was like, if you can post more, that's good. And I think the advice at the time too was like, the more you post, the more chances you have. The more chances you have of like going viral. I say that because I used to like going viral. It's not even a thing anymore. I mean, of course you can go viral, but it's not the way that it used to be. Like, but you more chances to get picked up in the algorithm, more chances to find subscribers and get your content in front of people's eyes. And at the time, I was unemployed, so I had all the time in the world to make 2 videos a week, and so that's what I committed myself to doing. That was the first reason. The second reason was I felt like it was going to fast track me as a creator if I created more content because I had been away from the camera for so long. And I was kind of rediscovering what it meant to create a video, what it meant to talk about my opinions and my feelings about products or skincare, my ideas, and really expressing myself to a camera or to an audience. And I felt like it would help me like really just kind of like fast track myself as becoming a better creator. And a lot of times you'll hear the advice that like you are not going to like really feel comfortable in front of the camera or really like your videos until you've made at least 100 of them. And maybe that's not quite true for everybody, but I do feel like that is like pretty close to how it feels, because your first 100 videos, you're going to be embarrassed to go back and watch them.
Hmm.
And there may be some good stuff in there, but you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't know how to light myself. Like I didn't know like how to figure out like the microphone. Like I wish I could have said this better, or I wish I knew how to edit a little snappier. Those are all things that I worked out, but I feel like I worked them out faster because I was putting out more content.
Hmm.
So at the beginning of my YouTube channel, yeah, I would say like that was the best way to do it. Now, as a more seasoned creator, 4 years in, I don't necessarily say you should start off with making 2 videos because it's a lot of work. And I think that you should just do what feels right for you and what feels manageable. What can you reasonably do every single week? And if that's
Hmm.
one video, that's one video. If it's like one video and a short, then it's one video and a short. I do produce a lot of content on YouTube. I am a solo creator. I just started getting help with editing, but I have such a hard time getting the short content up like on Instagram and TikTok because everything goes into my YouTube videos. And so I think it's just about knowing your limits, having your boundaries, knowing what is a healthy amount of content for you to create. But the more you can create, I do think, yeah, especially if you're starting out, you are, getting more content out there and there's more chances. But that being said, you have to be able to sustain what you're doing.
Hmm.
And if you can put out 3 videos a week, but then in 6 months you're completely burned out and you can't put out any videos, that's not going to help. And so you always have to remember that YouTube is a long-term game. And you have to be able to stay consistent and be able to go the long run with things. So set yourself up for success and be patient with it. But yes, 2 videos is what I started off with. When the pandemic hit in 2020, I started making 3 videos a week because everybody was at home and everybody
Yeah.
wanted more content. And that was interesting. I feel like 3 videos a week is kind of my limit. I feel like I don't do really good with that because I felt like I didn't have enough ideas for 3 videos every single week. I was like, yeah, I was hitting like burnout with having to edit so many videos and upload them and make the thumbnails and do all the links and all of that. So I found that like 3 videos was a little bit too much for me. I actually do, I put out a third video like every other week. I call them bonus videos, but I
Hmm.
don't always do them. And I release them when I want to. And I release them when I feel like I have something extra I want to do, or I feel like it'll benefit my channel or my community in some way. But I found that like 3 videos every single week as like an expected schedule is too much.
Yeah.
So it's just about knowing what you can do and how
Yeah.
much you can do and what you can sustain.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it's a long term game that you're playing here. You want to be able to sustain this and be able to show up week to week, on a regular basis, because that you want to keep the channel going. Otherwise, if you
Yeah.
can't, then the channel will shut down, and no more content is coming from you.
Yeah. And one of the things I want to mention too for those who are listening and wondering how much they should upload, one of the things that I hear from my community time and time again is they're so grateful that I'm so consistent. I
Mm,
upload on the same day every week at the same time. And they love that. So it's not really like, thanks for releasing so many videos this week. It's like, thanks for being there when you say you're going to be there. So I
yeah,
think more than anything about the amount of content that you're creating, create your content on a consistent schedule that people know, okay, I upload on Mondays. So, Monday at like, 10 a.m., that's when the new video is coming out. And then that's when my community can expect to come back to my channel and they will have new content. So I think, yeah, I would actually say probably the more important thing is your consistent schedule rather than the amount.
yeah.
It's just showing up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because that schedule of consistency sets an expectation for your audience. And when you don't
right,
deliver, based on that expectation, the audience feels like they're coming out on the short end of the stick there. But at the
right.
same time, like the difference, I guess, between, YouTube creation and traditional media creation, like Hollywood type entertainment, is that the audience understands that you're a real person with
Mhm.
challenges that you deal with. And so, if you have to be honest with them and tell them, hey, something came up, you know,
Yeah.
I'm running into a health issue, or my car is broken, or something along those lines. I mean, people are quite understanding. I remember
Yeah.
I posted something on our channel talking about how we switched from, a weekly schedule of the podcast to a bi-weekly schedule. And I got comments from people saying, yeah, take care of yourself, or do what you need to do if
Yeah.
there are other things that are bigger priorities for Video Husky beyond doing the podcast. And, you've got to take care of those things. So,
Yeah.
there's that fear that the audience might get angry, but they actually, you might find that more of them are more understanding than not.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to our conversation about boundaries and how our culture is shifting to more understanding around those boundaries, and people are a little bit more understanding of that. And like I said, I think probably the most important thing is that they just know when you're going to be there for them. They just know when you're releasing content, and it doesn't matter if it's 3 times a week, 2 times a week, 1 time a week, 1 time a month, 2 times a month. As long as they know, I'm a big podcast consumer, and I just love when it's Monday and I know my shows have new like episodes up, and I'm like, yes, they're here.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes when they're not there, you're like, wait a second, what, where's it? Is there something wrong with my app? Right. So it kind of
Yeah.
like puts you in that like weird, like, wait a second, did I miss something? But if you're in constant communication with your audience, they're not going to be upset with you. They're going to be even more understanding. But being able to have a consistent schedule that makes sense for you, that you can follow, I think is really the recipe for success.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Kelly, I want to talk to you to switch gears a little bit more here and towards the direction of business for you, because you've been doing
Mm.
this, like you said, for 4 years. And I imagine you got to a point where you were able to do well enough where you didn't have to go back into finding a day job for yourself.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit more about what the business side of your YouTube and content creation career looks like, especially as a small YouTuber, right? That has,
Yeah.
just about 50,000 subscribers, because a lot of people think, I don't have, a million people following me, therefore I can't make money. Yet at the same time, there are many YouTubers who have that many subscribers and they're struggling to get by. So I'm really curious, like
Yeah.
how things look like for you on the business side.
Yeah. That's, something I don't get to talk about a lot, but it's something that I feel super passionate about is you don't need 1 million subscribers to go full time. You don't need 100,000, 500,000. What you need is a dedicated community. And I think that's what it's always going to come back to on YouTube. If you don't have your eye on community, I think you're missing a really important component of YouTube success, and why people engage with YouTube as a platform. It is about building communities, and you know what? That's probably true of any platform at this point, where you can be a creator. Is you have to create a sense of community, and I guess the first thing with that would be, yeah, you don't need so many people. You just need the right people. And one thing that I always say is like your vibe attracts your tribe. And that is true of like niching down you what type of content you're creating. You're not going to find a community if you are like posting a lot of random stuff. And you do have to be really laser focused in your niche these days, I think. When I first started in 2013, I was posting beauty-ish videos. Like I was doing
Mm-hmm.
makeup stuff, I was doing skincare stuff, I was doing like fashion stuff. And I think that the part of the reason why I didn't get so many subscribers at the time is because it was a little bit all over the place. When I came back to YouTube, I experimented a little bit in the beginning, but then I really just focused in on skincare. And it wasn't just skincare, it was Korean skincare, K
Mm.
beauty. And I niched my niche. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
That's a term I like
Because
to use too, finding the niche within the niche. Because
Exactly.
beauty is such a huge niche as it is, right? Like, or
Yeah.
travel, like everyone wants to be a travel vlogger, but then if you could
Yeah.
focus or hone in on a sub niche of that category, then you could
Yeah.
really like find that tight small community
Yeah.
that you're talking about.
Yeah. And I think when I started in 2018, the skincare community was just starting to take off
Hmm.
on YouTube. And now it is huge. And some would even argue it's oversaturated. There's so many people who are creating skincare content these days because it's very hot and there's actually a lot of advertising dollars behind it. Eventually the bubble will burst, but right now skincare is the new makeup
Hmm.
in the beauty world. So it's a hot niche, but you're not going to get a lot of eyes on your content as a smaller creator or as a beginning creator if you don't niche that niche. So um, that's what I did. I started to talk about skincare, but I talked about Korean skincare because that was something I was super passionate about, and it was an interest of mine for many years before I got back on YouTube. So it was something that was really natural for me to talk about, easy for me to create content around, and something I knew a lot about. But at the time, it was very niche, and so people were like, "Well, I'm hearing about K beauty, but I don't know that much about it. Like, I don't know where to shop. Like, what are the good products? Like, are these like legitimate products? That was always like a big question. Like, where's the like legit shops? And what should I be buying? And what should I be looking for? And what's right for my skin type? And so I started off with the niche of K beauty. And then eventually that's how I gained a lot of my first followers. Eventually I started to share more of like what was happening with my skin at the time where it was becoming a little bit more sensitive. I started to eliminate things like essential oils and fragrances out of my skincare products to see if I could alleviate the sensitivities on my skin. I had gone through an issue with my moisture barrier, which basically resulted in a lot of skin irritation and learning how to heal my skin. And so I shared that journey. So while it wasn't necessarily K beauty niched, it was me sharing what was actually happening with my skin, right? Like my vibe. I wasn't like presenting myself as like the expert. Like I screwed up my skin, but like
Hmm.
here's what I'm doing to heal it. Here's what's working. Here's what's not working. And here's what I can say from my experience. I think if you're having the same problem, here's what you should do. Um, those things built me an audience. Sharing my experiences, sharing my knowledge of what I've learned through trial and error, but also really focusing in on that niche within the niche. And now my community has built out to include K beauty, sensitive skin, fragrance free skincare, and a little bit of self care too. So don't feel like if you pick a niche, you're stuck with it. You're not. You can expand within the niche. And I think actually at a certain point, you do need to do that in order to keep your audience interested and to keep going and keep yourself as a creator, you know, artistically inspired because you can't keep talking about moisture barrier and K beauty for like 10 years, right? Like you have to expand. But
Hmm.
you do need to really find your niche and really make it obvious what you offer on your channel. The other thing that was really important for me for building a community on YouTube was the concept of 10,000 true fans. Um, you don't need a million subscribers. What you need is you need 10,000 true fans. Now, true fans are not people who subscribe to your channel. True fans are people who will follow your YouTube, your Instagram. They'll purchase through your links. They'll use your code. They'll follow you on a podcast. They'll do anything because they're your fans. They're not your subscribers. They're your fans. They are all in on you. They love what you're doing and they want to support you. You only need 10,000 of them. So, you can have a million subscribers, but not all of them are going to follow you on every platform or purchase through your links or whatever, or even watch your videos, honestly, because you can have a lot of subscribers who are not plugged into your channel at all. They're not seeing your content. And I think that is something that happens to a lot of creators with bigger audiences, is that they'll see their views drop off because not everybody who's subscribed is watching. So you don't need a million. You just need 10,000 fans, true fans. And that is what's going to help sustain your views, sustain you in the algorithm, help you with affiliate income. So that was really important, was building a community first and foremost. And then as far as like making money, I was making money before, like I said, before I was a YouTube partner and getting any AdSense checks. And that was through affiliate links. I think everybody knows about them, but I don't think everybody understands the power of them and how much money you really, like, realistically can make off of affiliate links. You, if you're a small creator and you're not in the partner program and getting AdSense money, think about videos you can create that you can recommend products in, where you can put links in the description box, because you would be surprised how many people actually click them and how many people purchase through them, and you'd be
Mm-hmm.
surprised how that can add up. So, like I said, the first money I ever made off of my channel was through Amazon Associates. And those videos I made in 2018 with a couple of Amazon links still make me money today. That's the awesome thing about the affiliate links, is that it's not one and done, which I feel like a lot of YouTube videos, unless they're evergreen, it feels a little one and done. You release them, you get your views, maybe you get your AdSense dollars, and then it just kind of dies because it's a trend. It's got a shelf life. But some of those videos with evergreen content that constantly get clicked, like product reviews, especially like popular products. If you throw
Mm-hmm.
an affiliate link in there, you're getting a lot of traffic to that affiliate link. And if they purchase, even if they don't purchase that product, if they purchase something after hitting that link, you're going to get some type of commission. It adds up over time, and those videos will continuously make you money. So, like I said, I think most people know about it, but people don't understand the power of it. The majority of the money that I make every single month is from affiliate. It's not through AdSense. AdSense is okay. It helps, but the majority of the money that I make is through affiliate income, and that's what helps me pay my rent and pay my bills. So it really does grow on itself. It really is powerful. Don't ignore that. I know some people feel weird, like they're pushing products, or they're gonna be like, oh, people are going to think I'm sponsored and not disclosing it. No, not at all.
Yeah.
Put that in your description box. Write a little like thing that says these are affiliated links. I'll make a small commission if you do choose to purchase them, but that actually helps me out. That helps me keep going with my channel. Um, and most people are fine with that. They know that, or they want to purchase through it because you helped them. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can create great content recommending products, and then just say, hey, if you want to check them out, I've got the links for you, super easy, in the description box, you'd be surprised at how much money you can make just with that strategy alone. From the business perspective of making money, I think you have to understand how to diversify. Because if you want to make a living off of this, or even just a nice side income, you have to know that, like, you cannot put um, all of your eggs in the same basket, I guess. You have to diversify your income streams. So I have different income streams that include AdSense, that include affiliate links, that include sponsorships, and also website ads. So traffic from my website, I get some money off of them. Not a lot, but it helps. Figuring out how you can diversify that, because you may find that, like, you're popping off on AdSense, for a year, and then something changes, and all of a sudden, like, you're getting the same views on your videos, but you're not making as much AdSense because something's changed with the advertiser, something's changed with YouTube. You can't rely on that to
Mm-hmm.
always be there, or for that money to always be consistent. So diversify where you're getting your money from every single month is really important. Sponsorships are nice. um, they've definitely become a bigger part of my how I make money. But honestly, I don't count on them because they don't
Mm-hmm.
always happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I always try to treat them as like extra money that I can invest in my business. But they are um, not always super reliable. And yeah, it just depends. It just depends on what kind of sponsors you're working with and stuff. But I think if you can diversify the way that you can make money from affiliate AdSense, I actually started doing something recently, which is offering skincare consults,
Mm.
which
Like
is
coaching.
a kind of, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So um, you can submit a form to me talking about like some of the things you want to achieve with your skincare, maybe some of the problems you've been having. I can kind of assess what you're doing with your skincare routines, and then offer you some product recommendations and just some general advice about your skin. And that's something that I'm, doing in my niche, but I see that translating to really any niche. You might be able to do some type of consulting, some type of one-on-one or
Mm-hmm.
coaching, some type of offer. Creating your own product is also something that you could be doing. There's so many different ways. You don't need to have a million subscribers to start.
Mm-hmm.
But start thinking about it in a diversified way, because month to month, it's super different. I make different affiliate one month. Obviously the months of November and December are huge shopping and sales
Mm-hmm.
seasons. It's huge for the skincare community. There's also usually a lot of sponsorships happening at that time. January and February are some of the leanest months of the year for my niche, and I think for a lot of people in business. And so having a diversified income where you're not just focusing in on affiliate or sponsorships, but maybe you're offering a product at that point in time, or a consult or a coaching, that can actually help you get through the times where sales, so to speak, are a little bit down, or AdSense is a little bit down at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I imagine you have to budget for seasonality, like if you're making most of your money leading up to the holiday season, that you don't want to go all out spending everything that you make
Right.
during the holiday season.
Yeah.
You've got to take some of that and save it for your spending for the rest of the year too, right? Like I'm curious about how you deal with the fluctuations in income generation for yourself, especially with dealing with YouTube AdSense, and then even with
Yeah.
affiliate income that can kind of go up and down. So how do you go about
Yeah.
managing all of that?
Yeah. Sometimes it'll be like amazing months where you're like, whoa, this is awesome. I have so much extra money. But you're like, no, 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 no. First of all, you need to save a good portion of that for taxes. Second of all, you need to save a good portion of that for the months that are not like, whoa, I have so much extra money. You're like, whoa, I just barely made it this month.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that I would say about anybody who is looking to make any type of money off of this, whether it's part-time income or a full-time income, you have to be financially literate. You have to educate yourself about saving, about setting yourself up for financial success. I would really say that about any type of career that you want to go into. But if you're going to business for yourself, there's nobody there who's guiding you. And I know a lot of people get themselves into a lot of trouble with taxes, because you're getting tax-free money, right? And then all of a sudden you get slapped with these huge bills from the IRS, or whatever taxes that you end up owing. So get even if you're only making $25 off of Amazon a month, start to get a little bit more interested in finances, and also separate your personal and your business account immediately. Speaking
Mm.
from bad experience of mixing everything into one bank account, try to separate it if you can. The reason I say that is because it allows you to invest back into your business a lot easier than if you're seeing like this money in your personal account. You're like, okay, I can, you know, whatever you do, whatever you do, right? But you end up needing a new camera or something, and you're like, shoot, how am I going to pay for this? Well, if you've separated things out, you're a little bit more primed to reinvest in your business and have a little bit of saving on the side, because YouTube becomes very expensive. It doesn't need to be expensive to start, but it starts to become expensive the further you go into it. And all of a sudden you realize you need a new tripod, or you need a new SD card, or your microphone's not good enough. Or you find all these little upgrades that are going to
Mm-hmm.
take you to the next level, but all that tech takes money, and you're going to constantly burn through computers from all the editing. Um, so that's the first thing that I would say is just like start to get excited about taxes and
Mm-hmm.
knowing how the tax rate that you're going to be taxed at. Keep good records, get QuickBooks. It's super simple to start with QuickBooks. The further you get in, you may want to start talking to a tax professional too. I know this is like really like not cool stuff to talk about, but like I'm very passionate about sharing this because you need to know this because nobody's looking out for you. Only you are. So you have to be really careful because you can get yourself into a lot of trouble
Hmm.
if you're not on top of it. And learn how to be frugal. Learn how to make your own meals. Learn how to make your dollar stretch. Learn how to curb your spending. How to get cash back on your credit card and use that towards purchases. Um, if it means like reducing your cost of living, um, it can mean a big difference in your business if you can do that and to make those sacrifices off camera, right? So it's important to educate yourself a little bit. I had a financial advisor on my podcast, which is something I was really passionate about because I believe in financial self care. And something that she had mentioned was the more money you make, the more your lifestyle starts to creep up,
Yep.
and it's so true. And you'll find that like you'll get yourself into a place where you're like, I'm making so much money, but like it's never enough. You need to learn how to scale back some of your lifestyle a little bit.
Hmm.
As an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, as a creator, you are all of those things. And yeah, you have to be smart. Now that doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice everything all the time, but you do need to learn how to save, set yourself up for the future, not spend every dollar you make, and reinvest into your business. And that's the unsexy part of being a creator because, like, I
Yeah.
never signed up to be a bookkeeper. I never signed up to be a tax specialist, but like,
Yeah.
here I
Yeah.
am, you know?
Exactly. No, and you know what? What we were talking about earlier in terms of having moments of introspection and just stillness in your life. Like that can serve a purpose in being able to allow you the space to define what is enough for yourself. Because as you
Right.
grow as a creator, you might make, you may make more money, you'll earn more. But like you said, that lifestyle creep can really take its toll on you. Especially if you haven't defined what is enough for yourself, because I
Yeah.
mean realistically, like I think we can all do pretty well with, if we've got a roof over our heads and we've got food to eat, and then a lot of the best things in life in my opinion
Mhm.
end up being free, like quality time with your friends and family. So defining what
Yeah.
is enough can really help you in that journey, growing as a creator, I think.
Yeah. I had great experiences, starting off. Like I said, I started off unemployed and I was like, I'm going to try this YouTube thing. Like, that
Hmm.
seems really risky. I did get a part time job, a work from home part time marketing job with an e commerce company at the time. So that helped me. That helped me stay at home so that I could concentrate on YouTube and not spend a lot of time and money commuting. It was part time, so I was making just enough. And that gave me the space to focus on my channel. I was able to do that for a year, and then I was able to leave that job and go all in on YouTube. But those lean times taught me how to live lean, and it taught me what I really needed in life. And I do pretty well for myself. I'm not investing my money into a brand new car. I drive a almost 10-year-old car. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Keeping it in good shape. But I don't invest my money there. I invest my money into equipment, into my channel, into retirement accounts,
Hmm.
into savings and stuff. Because as you mentioned before, it's like there will be lean months where you don't make as much as you made in December or whatever, and so you need to sustain yourself through the lean times. And learning to live with less is something that is a big conversation that we're all having now because the environmental impact, um, of living less. There's a positive impact on the environment when we consume less. Um, and that's something that, yeah, I'm pretty passionate about that too. I try to wear the same clothes as much as possible. You'll see me in my videos. I wear the same tops over and over and
That's
over
the
again
same
for
with
years
me.
and years. Yeah.
That's the same with me. I'm sure people have seen me wear this shirt like a dozen
Yeah.
times in like the 50 plus episodes that I've done this
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I keep things simple. I invest in quality so that it lasts. But yeah, I try to be really smart about what I do with my money because I did start off with not a lot. And I did start
Hmm.
off with having to make every dollar stretch. And I try to keep that spirit with what I do, because as a small creator, there is always in the back of your mind, you're like, is this going to last? Am I going to be
Yeah.
able to sustain this? But I think that you can alleviate a lot of your financial anxiety if you, like I said, get financially literate and really do interrogate that question of how much do I really need. And you'll find that that answer is actually probably not as much as you thought it was.
Yeah, exactly. I tell people my escape plan, if everything just goes to crap here in the United States for myself, is I'm just gonna move abroad somewhere. Maybe move south of the
Yeah.
border or go to Thailand or something like that, and cut
Yeah.
my cost of living expenses in half and just live off of what I've saved.
Yeah. I get asked, sorry, I was going to say it reminded me, I get asked a lot, am I going to move to LA? And I'm
Uh
like,
huh.
no, I live in the Midwest. The cost of living here is so much less than if I moved out to California. I think I can actually make a great business here,
Yeah.
and keep my costs low. So yeah, another thing too. It's like you may be set up for success exactly where you are at in your small little town or something. So
Exactly. Well, one thing I want to ask you about before we wrap up, and man, there's so many other things that I could have asked you about. You gave such amazing, thoughtful answers, and we should probably do a round two. Doesn't even have to be like on this podcast. We could do it on your podcast as well,
yeah,
and I'll ask you the questions. Like that's totally fine with me. But you mentioned there's always this small thought in the back of your mind, like, is this going to last? Have you ever given any thought to what you might do if if your career as a creator came to an end, or God forbid you got canceled? This is something
yeah,
that people, I think, face and
yeah.
deal
Oh
with
yeah.
every day. Just being, if you have a public platform for yourself, is just wondering, am I going to say something that you know
Yes.
destroys my career? So is
Yeah.
that something that you think about? And if there
Yeah.
if there is anything, like, is there anything that comes to mind that you maybe would do instead?
Yeah. This is actually something, like I said, I'm going into my fourth year as like a real serious creator. And, you will meet challenges throughout that journey. And then you'll be like, okay, I did that. And something else will come up. So one of the challenges that I had in my first couple of years was like, if this works, if YouTube works, blah, 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 if I can make enough money to blah, 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 if. And there's this really interesting point around 2020 where I realized that was no longer a thought in my mind. If this works, I was like, this is working.
Hmm.
It's not if this works, this is it. And I used to say stuff like, oh, like a real job. I'm like, this is a real job, Kelly.
Yeah.
So there was like an interesting like clicking over point halfway through this journey where I was like, it wasn't like if this is going to work, it was like, this is working, now what? And I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, now what? Because it's working, but how long is it going to work? And like I was mentioning before, my bigger kind of like genre of skincare is very oversaturated right now. And there is a lot of interest and there's a lot of money and there's a lot of people in this niche right now. But just like I said with makeup, the makeup community was so big and then it kind of like just like imploded on itself a little bit
Hmm.
on YouTube a couple of years ago. And I think skincare kind of took its place. And I'm sure makeup's going to come back and be super big. Everything is cyclical, it comes back around. But I do think about like when skincare becomes a little less popular, are there going to be as many eyes on my content? Is there going to be as much interest in Korean skincare? These are all questions that you ask yourself as you go further into your creator journey. Is my niche sustainable? So at this point, I'm at an interesting crossroads because I'm thinking less about my niche and about like K beauty and skincare, and I'm thinking more about Kelly Driscoll. I'm
Hmm.
thinking more about my brand, and where I can expand out to. And that's really part of the reason why I launched my podcast last year was I wanted a platform where I could talk about more than just skincare, because as like I was mentioning earlier, like as a creator, you need to feel fulfilled by what you're doing. You need to be excited by what you're doing. And I am excited about skincare and I still love it, but I do talk about it multiple times a week for many years now. So it's nice to have a different platform for a different type of content. And so on
Hmm.
my podcast, it really opened up an avenue for me to be a little bit more personal and to be a little bit more vulnerable and honest about self care, mental health, a lot of stuff actually that we've talked about here, um, about the journey, um, of 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 being a person, of being a human, of being a creator, but really that journey, into becoming the best version of yourself. That's something that's really like lighting me up, and something I'm really excited to develop further. Is this other platform and this other kind of type of content, this other side of myself that I haven't really shared on YouTube. I've also been thinking about a second channel, as well,
Hmm.
that kind of is a little bit more personal, vloggy, self care type of content, where I can just be a little bit more off the cuff and talk about deeper things that I'm thinking about at the time. So I'm really thinking about expanding who I am as a personality rather than getting stuck in just one thing.
Yeah.
This one thing I love and I do it really well and I have a community around it, but I'm thinking now, well, what else can I do with this? Well, how much, it's not about making it bigger, but what else can I do to serve my community? What are other things that they would like to hear me talk about, or know about me, or learn from me? What
Yeah.
what else do I have to offer? And so learning how to develop maybe, yeah, a second platform, a different project, a passion project maybe. And in the future, I would love to develop it into something where maybe it's books, speaking tours, maybe even courses and stuff of just kind of helping people get out of rough patches, like what I did for
Hmm.
myself a couple of years ago, and just kind of giving them some guidance to go on their personal journey and to really discover the best version of themselves and the best life that makes sense for them. That's something that I'm super passionate about. If that doesn't work out, the thing about being a creator on YouTube is you gain so many skills that
Yeah.
are translatable into to other industries. You could become a video editor now that like brands and businesses understand that like social media is where it's at. And now with the trend of video, short form content, video content, if you have skills as a YouTube creator, you could easily become a video creator for businesses. You could easily sell your services either as a freelancer, independent contractor, or maybe even if there's a full time position for you at a bigger brand or an
Hmm.
advertising agency or marketing agency. If you can edit video, that's not a skill everybody has.
Hmm.
That really isn't. There's a lot of opportunity, I think, in marketing. If you can get your YouTube channel to pop off, you're pretty good at marketing, right?
Yeah.
You're either good at trends, keywords, titling things, thumbnails, subjects. You know how to get your content in front of people, and you know how to find the right um, person who's a potential subscriber to your channel. That's advertising, that's marketing, those are translatable skills. So I think that, if that's what I needed to do, I think I would probably transition into content creation for a brand, or content
Hmm.
creation for, maybe even a different influencer or something. These are all translatable skills
Yeah.
that, um, the maybe even like 4 years ago, you've been like, oh, you know how to edit a video. Okay. But now it's like, Final Cut Pro and Adobe Premiere, like, teach me. Like, I need to know these things because we need a TikTok for our business or something. So,
Hmm.
I think that there's a lot that you can do. Either if you're like, YouTube's not for me, you can take these skills. Or if you're like, YouTube is for me, but I need a side hustle to keep my YouTube channel going, sell those skills. You already have them. And so
Yeah.
I think that's what I would do, is I would
Yeah.
just use the skills I've gained. Because like I said, you wear a lot of hats you didn't expect you would. You're a
Yeah.
video editor, you're a tech expert, you're a writer,
You're a
you're a
marketer.
performer, you're marketing. Yeah,
Hmm.
you're researching trends. So you're a graphic designer too. Maybe you're a bookkeeper and you know
Yeah.
QuickBooks and you can help a small business.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's a great industry to be in, and there's just so many places you could go with it.
Well, yeah, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier as well. Like when you're focused on something that's more intrinsically motivated, like that's skill development. That's
Yeah,
worst case scenario out of starting a YouTube channel, you build skills for yourself that are translatable into getting a job with a company, like you said.
right.
Maybe you don't become like a super big YouTuber, but now you have these skills that are very much in demand. So I love it. I love to hear what you're saying. It's something that I think about often too when it comes to my own career. So it's good to meet somebody and chat with somebody who has a similar kind of approach and mentality.
Yeah.
So Kelly, well, this was awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, a lot of great, thoughtful answers. As we wrap up, just let everybody know where they can find you, where they can follow you on the internet.
Yes, so I am Kelly Driscoll on YouTube, where I talk about skincare, Korean skincare, and sensitive skin friendly products. I have a podcast called The Journey, a self care podcast. You can find that anywhere, probably right here where you're listening to this podcast. You can find my podcast where I go beyond beauty products and talk about deeper self care topics of mind, body, and soul, self care, really going deeper on that personal journey. I also have a personal Instagram at Kelldris, KELLDRIS. And there's a lot of skincare content there. I post reels, and yeah, it's a great place to get in contact with me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it,
Thank
Kelly.
you. Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Video Craft Show presented by Video Husky. Want to remind you, if you haven't already, to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's where we're posting majority of the time all of the content that we get from these interviews. And also subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever it is that you get your podcasts. And join us on our email list too. Visit www.videocraftshow.com to sign up to our email list. It's one of the best ways to get regular updates on when new shows are live here for the Video Craft Show. As I wrap up, want to go ahead and give a shout out to Gio Fernandez, my guy producing and editing. He is the producer editor extraordinaire of the Video Craft Show. And also got to shout out Paulo Lopez for all of his help on graphics. Now, if you need a full editing team to help you edit your videos because you're sick and tired of how much time it takes you, the hours and hours of time it takes you to edit your videos by yourself, and you're in luck. Visit www.videohusky.com to learn more. We can help you out there. I am Jon Santiago. Tune in next week, or actually every other week, for another interview, another episode of the Video Craft Show presented by Video Husky.